Oh, yeah, the audio's on.
Okay, let's get started. Hey, everybody, how we doing? Good to see everybody. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Ryan Collins. I'm the Executive Director of the Midwest Writing Center. Thank you for attending the Iron Pen Awards reading. Yeah, so we had, for those who don't know, for those who might be watching at home, Iron Pen is a 24-hour writing contest. I know many of you competed. So we send out a prompt on Friday afternoon, and everybody has 24 hours to write a poem, a story, or some kind of nonfiction piece in that 24 hours. This year we had 103 individual registrations from 80, thank you, from 80 different writers, or like, I guess 79 different writers from 13 different states. So pretty widespread. That's part of why we're doing this. We're trying to do this over Zoom. The prompt for this year was, you won't tell folks what you fear any of this says about you, which is a line from a book that was recently released. Book is called Be Not Afraid of My Body, a lyric memoir. Written by Darius Stewart. Darius Stewart is in the English department at the University of Iowa, is a poet, essayist. This is his first memoir, and they'll be part of the faculty here for the Writers Conference, which we'll be giving away. Yes. We're going to announce all of that on Monday and open up registration on Monday, so be looking out for that. We've got a really great faculty. So yeah, we wanted to kind of highlight one of them and some of our neighbors up in Iowa City. So I think what we're going to do is we'll go fiction, poetry, nonfiction, and we'll start with honorable mentions, and then we'll move to first place. Some people are here to read in person. Some people are joining us via Zoom. Some people cannot make it. So we'll kind of just see who shows up and what happens. And I don't know if some of our judges are here or not. I'm not.
Hannah's online.
Okay. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hello.
Thank you for judging, Hannah. Is there anything that you would like to say about your experience judging the fiction for Iron Pen this year?
I had a really great time. I think there were a lot of very strong entries. It was a very difficult decision for me, which was, of course, the best kind of decision, I think. A lot of writers can be really proud of what they submitted. Everything was fantastic. So I really loved seeing just the creativity in how people interpreted the prompt. It was a really fun experience.
Yeah, no, that's great. We appreciate you doing that. And I'm just going to check because our audio is not coming through this at all. So yeah, so they can't really hear you in the room. So
Love that. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
And then what we need to do is
We can hear each other on here fine, so.
That's great. Yeah, we want everyone who's
Fantastic.
to be able to hear all of you more than just off of this laptop that is not facing them. So
I can't remember how we did this.
it's on Zoom.
It's on Zoom.
audio.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry for the hold up, everybody.
There we go. Can someone speak online, please?
Hello.
I even turned the volume down for that. Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, we'll just
Problem
adjust
solved.
as we go. Yeah, for sure. So, and I'm trying, I can't see all who is here. So, yeah, you're gonna have to do that. So our the first reader, the first honorable mention for fiction is Lex Wurth reading their story Pink Power Nail Polish. So take it away, Lex.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Everybody think that volume's good?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Dear members of the school board, tonight you've heard other parents come forward to express some concerns with the school's policies. I'll try my best to keep this short. My name is Adam Harrison, and my son Levi is in the 2nd grade here at Williams Elementary. I, like many of you here, worry about my son, if he's fitting in, if he's making friends, if he's learning and growing into a well-rounded child. If you'll allow me, I would like to tell you a story about how I learned my son is doing just fine. Last week, I went to tuck my son Levi into bed. I noticed he was fidgeting and hiding his hands. I pulled the blankets back, revealing the brightest pink nail polish on each of his fingers. "What is this?" I exclaimed. I watched shame wash over his face as he began to cry. "You'll need to wash this off before school tomorrow. You don't want the kids to make fun of you," I said, walking off without giving him his goodnight kiss. By morning, I saw Levi desperately trying to scrub off the pink from his nails, tears streaming down his face. I felt like I swallowed my heart. I just didn't want him to be made fun of at school. It wasn't my intention to be his first bully. And then I began to realize I was speaking through generations of shame, and I was passing it down to Levi. I had flashes in my mind of Levi all grown up, telling his son he can't paint his nails. It made me shudder. It was a silent ride to school as I dropped him off, his poor fingers red from hastily scrubbing them. He didn't speak a word to me as he grabbed his backpack and went off to school. My heart sank. I sat in the parking lot for a while, making myself late for work, but I had an idea. I drove to the nearest drugstore, piling in one nail polish in each color I could find: red juicy apple, citrus sparkle, berry good, and my favorite, pink power. It was a hot pink with holographic glitter. I couldn't wait to pick up my son from school. Later that day, I pull up to the school. Levi quietly opened the car door and got in with his head down. "I got you something," I smiled. He looked at me confused as I handed him a bag filled with every color of nail polish imaginable. "These are yours," I said, "so you can stop using your sister's nail polish," I laughed. He immediately perked up. That night we painted each other's nails. He picked out very good, a plum purple for me, and I painted each one of his nails in pink power. Over the last week, I have watched my son's confidence bloom. He is so proud of his colorful nails, and I think there's some pride for his dad too. My son glowed for the first time in his life because I allowed him to be himself. He was beaming the morning he went off to school, ready to show off his newfound love for the color pink. A few days went by and I thought nothing of it until I got a call from the principal's office. They informed me that Levi has started a trend that goes against school policy. School policy, I thought to myself. What does a 7-year-old boy do that goes against school policy? The principal, Mr. Richards, although trying to be kind, gutted me when he said we would have to remove his nail polish, that only girls were allowed to paint their nails. Mr. Richards said they don't want our boys to get the wrong idea. I was appalled. I drove straight to the school to pick up my son and told him on the way home that he didn't do a single thing wrong. He asked if I cared about what people at work thought of my painted nails, and I told him, I don't fear what anyone thinks about me because I'm doing what feels right and I'm not hurting anyone in the process. I got a few comments at work, sure, but this isn't about me. I'm here tonight to address the administration and dress code at this school. Little girls are welcome to paint their nails, but little boys are not allotted the same expression. I encourage you to witness the joy on my son's face and the awe on the faces of his peers. My son said they were all begging to come over to paint their nails. I implore you to reevaluate your school policy because I know it is both your goal and mine to inspire and uplift our children and to allow them to explore and express themselves. Also, I brought you your own bottle, Mr. Richards. I think Berry Good suits you. Thank you, board members and Mr. Richards, for allowing us parents to give you some insight tonight on our children. I hope you'll see our sons the way we do, and that we have more to learn from 7-year-olds about kindness and inclusion than they have to learn from us.
Yeah. That was outstanding. Thank you, Lex. Our next honorable mention in fiction is Natalie Murphy of Chandler, Arizona. I don't know if they're on the Zoom or not. I don't think so. So congratulations to Natalie, wherever Natalie is. Her story was called Shoot Your Shot. So we send that forward. The third place winner in fiction, I know, is here. And it is D. Robb of New Windsor, Illinois, with her story, I Know What They're Thinking. D, please.
Oh, come over. I want to make sure that you're visible. But okay, just go ahead. Sorry. Thanks. Thank you.
The first thought that went through her mind was shallow and cold. She wasn't worried about her son and what was happening to him, not at all. She'd never worried about him. She'd always thought of herself first. What will people think? We're good people. Good people don't have problems like this. Ever since their son was born, she and her husband James had done everything correctly. Breastfed, used organic cloth diapers, scheduled tummy time, enrolled Jamie in language classes, violin, t-ball, Montessori, private school. All the time smug in the satisfaction that everyone around them noticed what perfect parents they were. Then one day James had left, rinsed his coffee cup on a Friday morning, turned around and said, "I'm leaving. Here's my key to the house. Mortgage is paid until July. I'll talk to Jamie." Gave the Labradoodle a pat on the head and walked out. She'd thought to herself, "Oh my God, what will people think about me?" So she didn't tell anyone, not even her mother. How do I keep people from finding out? Was her only question. And now this. Still reeling from James's leaving, she'd answered the phone automatically. It was the police. She didn't even know how to talk to the police. She'd never talked to the police, ever. She started out with, "Yes, sir, Jamie Stewart lives here. Well, when he's not at school or with friends," she chuckled. "No, he's not here at the moment. May I take a message?" Tittering a little at the unknown male voice on the line. Then she heard the word warrant. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Now she laughed, freely. "What can you possibly want with Jamie?" "Well, yes, he drives a black car, a Mazda, new on his birthday, lucky boy," she chortled, proud of having bought her son the new car on her own. "An accident?" In disbelief. "He hasn't had any." She stopped, cocked her head, and realized that the man hadn't returned any of her laughing. She was not amusing to him. Oh my God, what must he think of me? At the dining room table the next morning, the grossly extravagant Ethan Allen, she hunched over her cup of imported Indian tea. She reflected on the phone conversation. She'd promised to give Jamie the message. Why, of course she would. She'd promised he would come to the station bright and early today. Well, I would see to it. But Jamie hadn't come home, hadn't answered his phone. Now what? I promised the police he'd be in. She left him 14 texts, starting with, "Where are you?" to "Why do the police want to talk to you?" to "Call me now." She hadn't heard a thing from him. And she was angry. Angry at Jamie. How dare he put me in this position? She went through the list of people she could call for help without divulging what was going on. She had an excuse for every single person. My mother, too dramatic. She'd call the police herself. Carly, her friend from PTO, God, no, it would be everyone's lunchtime conversation. Her minister, what does he know about legal issues? James, not on her life would she admit this to him. I don't even know a lawyer. That was James's job. And if I called that lawyer, he'd tell James in a heartbeat. So she hadn't called anyone. She drove around the small town where they lived, looked for his Mazda, and stopped at the soccer field and the GameStop he frequented, all the while crafting a plausible lie in her mind if she saw anyone she knew about what she was doing. It was only 3 days later, after Jamie had been pulled over by the police on Highway 27, read his rights, handcuffed, taken to jail, that she'd Googled criminal lawyers. What can we do to keep this out of the papers? Was her first question. Then the phone calls came, beginning around noon. She'd answered, thought it was the lawyer she'd finally hired. "Hello?" It was Dana, the neighbor. "Are things okay?" Yes," she stammered. "Fine, they're fine." Her voice a register higher than she'd intended. Why? Why do you ask?" "Well, I've not seen much activity," Dana continued, poking. "Your car's been in the drive a couple of days now, and that handsome son of yours hasn't been shooting hoops out front much." "Things are fine, okay? Just fine," she'd rushed. "I've got to go now. Thanks for checking in." She hung up as quickly as she could. Well, that hadn't taken long. Word was out. What will people think? Her heart was beginning to erratically thump. 3 other women called that afternoon. Smarter now, she screened the numbers before answering. One left a message. "This is Monica. I'd heard, well, are you okay? Call me back if I can do anything." She deleted the message, turned off her voicemail. Only matter of time before the press starts calling, she supposed. The following days were filled with shame and horror as she talked to Jamie's lawyers and learned what they said he'd done. Each word a knife to her carefully created existence. She paced, tried taking deep breaths, her pulse pummeling in her brain. "Mrs. Stewart," one of her lawyers finally asked, "would you like to see Jamie?" "Oh my God, no," she'd cried, then hesitated. "I mean, I don't want to go. Then do I have to go? I can't go to the grocery store, let alone the jail. What if someone saw me? What would they think?" So she closed the curtains, huddled in the dark, wrapped in Jamie's baby blanket, terrified that someone would think poorly of her and her parenting. Her phone rang incessantly, her mother's number, her friends, James even, his voice frantic. "Where is he, Hillary?" He'd shouted on the message. "Where is Jamie? What has fucking happened?" She hadn't bathed or eaten in days. Dried sweat clung to her like pollen. She could smell her own fear, rank, encompassing. The blood from where she'd scratched her arms seep through her clothing, leaving ragged, ugly stains. No, no, no. Breathe, Hillary, just breathe in and out. She found herself standing in one room or another, not knowing how she'd gotten there or what she was doing. First in her bedroom, unmade bed sheets tangled around her feet, then in the kitchen, mixing bowl and spoon in her hands. She lurched through the shadows in her home, eyes glassy, already vacant, her hands scratching, rubbing. Oh my God, there is no other answer. Her heart banged against her lungs, her breath became raspy, the room spun. Head down, she remembered from somewhere, head down. She fell to the floor, thrust her head between her knees. Breathe, breathe. Her body trembled, shook, as the world around her crashed and her phone rang and rang. Pill bottles skittering across the marble tiles, holding her body hostage as she sank into their blessed coolness. The sound of breaking glass should have summoned her. She should have struggled to open her eyes, felt warm arms around her, heard the shouting of her name, the whine of the siren as it approached. She should have seen the stricken look on James's face as the paramedic administered Narcan, felt for a pulse, a heartbeat, any sign at all of life. She should have been there to hear the judge when Jamie's charges were overturned, when her mother wept at his release. She should have told Jamie that she loved him, that she was proud of him, that her death wasn't his fault. She should have been anywhere but where she was, in a pearl-colored coffin in row 72, plot 18. But she was gone, never knowing that what her friends and family thought of her was nothing like what she'd thought. Oh, sorry.
All right, are you sure this is on the right view here? No, I'm talking with the view.
Oh, yeah, no, it is recording correctly.
Okay, you say so. Our second place winner, I'm trying to see who we got with us. I don't think he's going to be with us today, but our second place winner was actually our winner last year in this category, David Nash of La Crescent, Minnesota, for his story, The Fourth. Give it up for David, wherever David is. Congratulations, David. And the winner, unless maybe he's here, the winner of the fiction category is Peter Hadlandsmyth of Iowa City, Iowa. Peter, did you make the trip? Never heard from Peter. Peter won for his story Pick Up. So we'll be sending his medal and all of that good stuff, and we'll send all the certificates to all the winners who aren't here. So give it up for Peter in absentia, I guess. And we will move on to poetry. Let me check my notes here. And I'm looking through for some comments here. So our judge, usually the judges for Iron Pen every year are the winners from the last year in the same category. So whoever won poetry last year, it's generally how that worked. Wasn't the case for fiction this year because David wanted to compete. That's why Hannah helped us out. Thank you again, Hannah. And David did pretty well. First and second place 2 years in a row. It's pretty impressive. Our judge for poetry was Hannah Rose Showalter, who also couldn't be here today. So we'll just jump in with the readings, and I believe everyone is here, or no, not everyone is here, but our third place winner for poetry was Kathleen Fields of Oak Park, Illinois, for her poem Morning Glory, Amen. And I think Kathleen is here, so
yeah, I'm here.
Great, excellent. Take it away.
All right. Hello to everyone in the room, and thanks for the opportunity to have it on Zoom. It makes it just really user friendly for all kinds of people. So thank you. All right. So Morning Glory, Amen. After Alabama's ruling, I have lived many times looking for you. I found you playing with my imagination, summer pools in your eyes, reflecting silver light like a midnight TV switching on, casting shadows without much sense. You found me waiting 4 years, holding 273 days, 5 days pushing, 8 days total. Outside, the heavy black door, these efforts look small, but I tried so hard. I thought so hard. You should see the spreadsheets and sticky notes and shots and blood draws and more and more and more and more. Come on now. What took you so long anyway? So alert. That's what they said when you were born. Blossom, sweet morning glory, blue eyes open, fixed on me, expecting me to get it right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Appreciate you joining us, and I'm glad this all worked out. It's nice when we can do this. Our second place winner in poetry is not here. I talked to him a little bit earlier today. It is David Wright of Monmouth, Illinois, for his poem Why I Try to Keep Sins Away from My Lips and Yours. So shout out to David. Congratulations. Give it up to David a little bit. I know he was particularly bummed that he couldn't make it today because the winner in this category is a former student of David's, and he wanted me to extend his personal congratulations. I'm sure he's reached out to you too. But the winner in poetry this year is Jacob Duncan of Aledo, Illinois, for his poem Someday in the Mood for Love after Wong Kar-Wai. Jacob, take it away.
Again, I did want to thank David Wright, since I probably would have never wrote poetry without him. So this poem is based on a movie. So it is a restless moment. As little as I like it, you don't have to kiss to make love. I'm not talking about detached intimacy like in pornography or desolate alleyways. There is love in just sitting beside someone watching Wong Kar-Wai's cinematic opus and whispering about it. But if someone tried to sit next to me at the movies, I'd probably just move away. Love doesn't need to be glamorous. It can be as immortal as a tree or a temple, but it can also be invisible. You can kiss someone you don't love, even in a rainy alley, and have it mean nothing. But if you don't kiss someone you do love, now that's a secret you don't tell. I have no secrets. Love like that makes for beautiful cinema, but maybe I'm too young, too insecure, too desperate because I can't watch it right now. even though I really should. I'm tired of writing about love without love. And so this just might be my masterpiece. And then I'll never sing of love again. In elementary, a girl asked me to go out, and she was pretty. I said to her I didn't date because I figured she was being silly. Yet there was a sincere fear wrinkled in her brow, and she never ever spoke to me again. I tell the telling tree. If I had a real secret, I wouldn't want to whisper it to a lover's forehead. I'd rather kiss a hollow hole at Angkor Wat and tell that temple how I'm feeling. That era has passed. Nothing that belonged to it exists anymore.
Certificate. Check money. Bring on the stuff. Say a little bit. Shit. Confusing things. Okay, cool. So our last category is nonfiction. So what we'll do nonfiction, and then there are some people that are here for the open mic action. So some of the people who participated in Iron Pen this year, they want to share their work. We got a few people in the room. I think we got at least one person on the Zoom, maybe. So we'll do that, and then we'll give away some books, and then we'll do the giveaway for, or the drawing, I guess, for the registration for the writers conference. And we'll draw a couple names for that in case the person who wins can't go, that sort of thing. To people to be able to attend. It's going to be awesome. Okay. My notes were all out of order, so. Alrighty. So, trying to see. Our first honorable mention or the judge for nonfiction was Tammy Davis. She had a couple. Tammy, are you with us? No? Okay. She was maybe gonna make it, but I don't think could make it. So she said, "What an interesting set of essays. I've completed my review. Please submit results. I'll say there were several essays that really stood out from the others. Differentiating those from each other was a challenge. In the end, it came down to the writing that drew me in, clarity of thought and execution." And she's got some comments for the top three, so I'll share those as we get to those. But the first honorable mention is Samantha De Filippo of McHenry, Illinois, for her essay, The Never Ending To-Do List. Sam is here. Yeah, well, we'll give it up for Sam. Sam used to be a long time ago was a young emerging writers intern, and Sam I think is like placed in every category. She's one of like the few people that's participated enough that I think she's placed in like all three categories over the year and was a judge last year. So she's got a knack for the Iron Pen, apparently. She's got a lot of game. So our next honorable mention is Mary Deacon of Davenport for her essay, Intrusive Thoughts. Mary, are you here? Mary in the house? Is Mary here? No, it doesn't look like Mary's with us. Davenport really showed up for the nonfiction category. So there'll be a lot of Davenport representation coming. So look out for that. So Mary's not with us, so give it up for Mary. Third place winner was Jessica Brent of Tulsa, Oklahoma, for her essay Owasso. I don't see her on the Zoom. We have not heard from her. It's a bummer. Please give it up for Jessica. I think the second reader is she here? No, she hasn't showed up yet. She was coming, but there's some sort of. Yeah, nothing to be sorry about. We totally understand. We hope everything is okay. That's a lot more important for sure. So, our second place winner in nonfiction was Emily Harvey, also of Davenport, Iowa, for her essay Going Home. Emily, we hope everything is okay, like 100%. So give it up for Emily. Congratulations. Very cool. And our winner is definitely here, which is very exciting. Also from Davenport, Iowa, Kristin DeMarr, for her essay, You Won't Tell Folks What You Fear Any of This Says About You. Kristin, take it away.
Okay, so you won't tell folks what you fear any of this says about you. I won't have to. They will smell it wafting from every pore of my being, or maybe just the armpits of the hoodie I've lived in for the past week. As mothers, so often we fear failing our children. We fear the judgment of others over the ways in which we parent and the things we do or don't do. There are so many areas we can be failing in at any given moment. Sometimes it feels like all the plates are stacked against us. I've been working on an essay for too many days now, utilizing the full plate analogy, which works well when paired with the spoon theory. Spoons, plates, mountains of fucking dishes. My plate is full of shit and all my spoons are missing. Analogies of self-care aimed at mothers. Put your oxygen mask on first, or you can't pour from an empty cup. Ooh, hey, that one fits in with the plates and spoons. Makes so much sense in theory, but how about the practice? What about when you are in one of your lowest mental health states, lying on the ground? Sorry. What about when you are in one of your lowest mental health states, lying on the ground, and your daughter messages you from high school threatening suicide? There's not the time to put my mask on first. Instead, I take my mask and I put it on her. Because that is what any good mother would do every single time. The mask analogy does not hold up in this situation. In reality, it would take a person all of 2 seconds to put their mask on first. States of mental health crises are not quick and easy fixes. You can't just plop an oxygen mask on. The empty cup analogy may be more fitting in this situation because maybe I find that there's still a drizzle of backwash left in the cup when I thought it was empty. I've seen so many people leave just a fraction of a sip in their cup, claiming to be done. I scold them. Are you kidding me? There's still a sip in there. What are you doing? That's alcohol abuse right there. Sometimes I'll just finish that sip for them. We can't waste precious resources. But maybe they are trying to save just enough in case they need it later. That only works if you're sitting at home, though. You can't leave it sitting at the bar and expect it to still be there when you come back. I'm at a friend group weekly meetup that I haven't been to in 2 weeks because of weather and mental health, co-conspirators. Friend 1, we talked about doing an intervention, but then we thought, nah, she's probably okay. Friend 2, what do we do when we're lying on the floor? Me, well, what can I do? I lay on the floor. Friends 1, 2, and 3 laughing. No, that's when you call one of us. My plate is so overheapingly full, but their plates are full too. One has a plate of chicken with a drumstick about to slide off. Another has a plate with chicken wings, chips and salsa, grapes, celery, and ranch dressing dripping off the right side. Mine is full of mashed potatoes, oozing gravy, melted cheese, and corn niblets flying off here and there. And I don't have any spoons left to try to sculpt the mashed potatoes into Devil's Tower. And there's a dead fly in my potatoes. People got that reference. I'm like, I wasn't sure. In the essay I'm writing, I get distracted thinking about the balance of food and plates with compartments. I've written myself into a corner that I'm not seeing my way out of. So I will flesh it out with the focus of balance. While there are a lot of analogies to make about the balance of food or portions or main dishes, side dishes, and desserts, that's not what I should be writing about at all. The analogies I desperately need to make are undeniably ones that point out the obvious. Why is it that I have all the food on my plate, but my children have none? As a mother, isn't it my duty to feed my children first? This one is the opposite of the oxygen mask analogy, because that's just how it is and has always been. One time, my ex got all worked up, telling me a story about how his first wife had the audacity to make herself a plate of food and sit down and eat it before feeding their baby. Disbelief raged through him. I was only an every other weekend fill-in mother at that point, but I knew after all the years of watching my mother ensure that all of us had food on our plates before she sat down. Sometimes we even had seconds before she was able to put food on her plate. More often than not, she was left alone, still eating after we had all finished and left the table. Jesus, you eat so slow, my stepfather would tell her. I just chew slower, she would say. I think of this when I tell my children, I can't help that I actually chew my food, or that I actually like, or that I like to actually chew my food. There have been so many days as a mother where dinner is the first meal that I eat all day. Sometimes I have to eat a couple of crackers or pieces of cheese while cooking just so I don't pass out. Some days I only make the dinner because there are kids to feed. One time a therapist asked me, what would it look like for you to give up? Well, I have kids, so I can't. I can give up some, but at the end of the day, I still have to make them dinner. 2 lifetimes ago, before I became a parent, a coworker with 2 young children said something that stuck with me. The hardest part of parenting is finding that line. You want to do everything for them, but you also need to teach them how to be independent. I realized that keeping my plate heaping is selfish, stingy, but most of the time it requires more spoons than I have to shuffle and redistribute some of that load. And there's no good analogy to account for the time requirement of shuffling and redistributing the food. I do understand that later I will see the return on the time investment, but that doesn't mean I have the initial investment at my disposal. It can't be borrowed. I thought about what that coworker said as I was making breakfast for my daughter on one of our toughest mornings to date. A day where she requested a mental health day off school, and I told her no. When she knew that wasn't going to work, she suddenly had a horrible stomach ache. When I told her she still had to go to school because she had missed too much, and sometimes in life, we have to show up regardless, she messaged me from her bedroom, Mom, OMG, don't you care about me at all? I walked down the hall and took a deep breath before opening her door. If I didn't care about you, I would let you stay home. I wouldn't care whether you missed school or not. She slammed her door so hard that it shook the entire household. She was not budging. I was not budging. As I was coming back into the house after starting the car, she messaged, a couple of weeks ago, my mental health was the worst it had ever been. Who's to say it got better after? Same, I replied. Then came her slam dunk. But why make everything about yourself? You chose to have children and you have to deal with it. And I'm not trying to be rude, but your child comes first. I knew better than to attempt to say anything to her at that point. I also knew that if she went to school that day, it would have felt too much like the day from 2 weeks ago that she brought back to the surface. I would have spent the entire day trying to manage her mental health through messages back and forth when my cup was still empty. My spoons were still missing. I came home from dropping the other kids off at school, only slightly late, and made myself an egg toast sandwich in what felt like the first step in an act of defiance. After I had finished eating, my daughter came out to the kitchen and apologized. I apologized too and explained that she hurt my feelings. We hugged and I asked her if she wanted an egg sandwich. My daughter was sitting in between me and the toaster waiting, watching memes on her phone as I gathered the egg, an individual container of avocado from the fridge, a paper bowl, a plate, a plastic fork, and a knife from the cart. I already had the egg in the microwave and had set the plate, knife, and avocado in front of her. As I went to put the bread in the toaster, everything screamed to me, give her the bread. Initially, I saw this as the second step of defiance. Here, you do the toast. But no, it was not an act of defiance. It shaved off a few seconds of my time. It saved a spoon. It made my plate feel just slightly less heaping, one step closer to that line. She put the bread in, pushed the button down, looked to me for approval, and smiled when I gave it. Her contribution and our collaboration after that morning of dissent and opposition gave me a fresh spoon.
Yeah. Don't run away. Come back. Certificate. Superior Medal of Writing Strength. Give it up for Kristin. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Is that what book I think it is? Are you reading a book by our good friend Liz Lenz? Yeah. You should all check that book out. It just came out. It's on the New York Times bestseller list. You can't, it's hard to miss. Yeah. Yeah. This American Ex-Wife. Liz, if you're out there, we love you. You're one of our favorites. So big ups. Go read Liz Lenz. So we'll do some open mic now. We got some people who are here, and the first person I have on my list is Esther Wint. Esther, take it away.
Hello. I'll be reading a piece titled Sandbag Sunglasses. Minuscule lies hide in the plaque on gap-toothed smiles of friends who say you're loved. It's hard to recognize later what's just plaque and what's lies, and you tell yourself you've adapted, you've recognized a way to protect yourself through countless generations of the cells in your eyes reforming over and over. They have grown stronger, they detect easier, but maybe that's harm-tinged glasses fogging your retina. These glasses become so heavy on the head, like sandbags tied to the temple by nothing more than a taut tether teetering you on the edge of breaking your neck, because you refuse to take them off, and that antivirus love invade your pupils. The smog in the porcelain lens is far too dense to even remember if the lies really were there, but surely your brain would not lie to you. It feeds you the truth from a silver spoon, twinged with a healthy amount of rust to grind your teeth on. You'll stick with these glasses because they've stuck themselves onto your lashes and the bags under your eyes, because all the lies your friends are surely saying surely keep you awake at night, till all you can do is cry into your sandbag sunglasses and muddy the vision even further.
Yeah. Thank you, Esther. The next name I have on my list is Kathleen Harsey. You in the house? I thought they were going to be on Zoom, but
That's me.
huh?
That's me. Kathleen
Oh, okay.
Harsey's my maiden name, actually. Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, gotcha. Great. I mean, if you,
Yeah.
if you want to,
Oh, no, I don't have anything. I already read. I read my
oh, yeah,
poem.
no, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know. Well, because some people compete in different categories. So some people just have it like that and they write a poem, and some people sign up for all three categories. And that is, and they don't always submit everything in every category, but some people did. And like, if you're one of those people who wrote a poem and a story and some kind of nonfiction piece in 24 hours,
Oh,
from
I'm
one
good.
poem, we salute you. That is like, we should have like a special medal just for that. That is like some real, that's the Iron Pen, I think, right there. That is a trifecta. So, okay, cool. Sorry about that. My mistake. And thank you again for reading and correcting me. Appreciate you. Our next open mic reader is Mike Bales, who is here. Mike, take it away.
I placed once. Usually it takes me about a month to get a short story in good order, so it can be a little intimidating to have 24 hours, even though I've done it. There's one time I thought I wrote a winner, but I didn't, but it ended up being my short story that year for the Rockford Review. I write a lot of prompts because it gets me out of myself. I've been writing for so many years that sometimes I'm dependent on prompts. This is a short story. I did once have a short story in the Rockford Review called Don't Break the Mirror, which had to do, the main character is a woman. This time the main character is a man, and it's called The Mirror. The character's Eric, and I don't know if Eric totally likes me, all the things I put him through in different stories. This is called The Mirror. This is slightly revised from my entry. Eric sat on his front porch as the mirror glistened in sunlight. That April, the air was once again filled with sounds of children playing. Mary strolled across the yard and brought it to him. I was cleaning house and found this in the basement. I thought about you, she said, wiping a bead of sweat off her forehead. He'd moved in 6 months ago after graduating from college, but she said that she lived there for 5 years. He gazed at her, pleased to know someone in town near his age. Why me? When I showed it to you, you said you liked it. She smiled. He stood up and touched the wooden frame. It was smooth. He looked from the side and noticed the glass was without a scratch. He turned and looked away. She sighed. So don't you want it? No, it's fine, he said. She left and returned with a cloth. He watched as she cleaned the glass. It's a special mirror. Eric's gaze was drawn to his reflection on its face. He turned around. She was walking back to her house. She looked over her shoulder and shouted, "Take good care of it, and it'll take care of you." "I promise I will," he said. "Be well," she said. Their neighborhood rested on a hill just a mile from a quarry. Some of the bars said that there is blasting in the quarry and that someday the houses would slide down the hill into the river below. A comment Eric dismissed with a wave of his hand. He put the mirror in the corner of the living room and walked around it as if examining a rare painting. He grabbed a hoagie from the refrigerator and gazed at the reflection as he ate. A shot of whiskey he gulped burned down his throat. One moment his image was too skinny, the next overweight. He looked at a distorted image of him as if it was another person. He closed the curtain and they were gone. This isn't right, he thought. A stack of his used college textbooks stacked on a corner of the floor were still waiting to be shelved. And the front room was mostly bare except for a table and a few chairs. And now the mirror. He turned to it and said, "Good night." He thought about Mary and whispered, "She must be some kind of friend," as he eased himself into a restless sleep. In the middle of the night, the house creaked and he slid out of bed. His head ached and he paced through the house as if fighting his demons. He glanced at the bottle of whiskey and hid it under his bed, thinking, "I can't let her know about this." A cold breeze blew as he stepped outside. He gazed at the small houses lined along the block, those of the town people living their identical lives. The house just down the street was dark. An older man who lived there just died. Back inside, Eric touched the dulled face of the mirror. You work and live a hard life, and then you die. Maybe this is the way it's supposed to be, but what will I have to show for it, he thought. His shoulders hunched, bearing a great weight of his life. He was at college when his father, then divorced, drew his last breath, and yet he couldn't explain it to her or understand. When Eric was young, he told his father about a nightmare, and his father said, "Don't tell anyone or they'll think you're crazy." Eric paused to the sound of Mary's voice. He looked out the bedroom window. The light in her house was turned off. The refrigerator in the kitchen hummed as he pulled the bed sheet over his head. Sometime later, the house creaked and he sat up in bed. He thought someone was crying and then wondered if it was a stray cat. He glanced out the window, but no one was around. He stumbled his way into the front room and turned on the light. The mirror bore a vision of him, but wrinkles creased his face. A voice said, "Isn't this what you're afraid of, dying alone?" Eric held his chest and gasped, "I'm too young," as he saw the face of his father. He grabbed a quarter from the table and flung it, chipping a corner of the mirror. "I can't let her see me like this," he said. He covered it with a blanket. The next morning, she brought breakfast and got him out of bed. He frowned and she said, "I thought I'd treat you today." "Why?" "That's what neighbors do." She smiled and touched the back of his hand. "Or friends," he said. She glanced at the bags under his eyes. "Are you okay?" she asked. Eric tried to answer, but the words caught in his throat. All he could say was, "I'm sorry that you must see me this way." She came up to him and looked him in the eyes. That's okay, she said. She pulled the blanket off the mirror and touched the chip in the corner. It was an accident, he said, and took a deep breath. Things will be better today, she said. He smiled as she pointed her reflection of them dancing together, gliding and sliding across the face of the mirror. He drew her near. They kissed and he hugged her. His father's voice whispered, if you find someone, never let them go, and keep your secrets if you must. Okay, thank you.
Proofless. Okay, thank you, Mike. Our next reader, yeah, you got the spirit, is Chris Bentley. Chris, please.
This is called The Madam and the Mongrel, and it's written in dialect, so you guys can laugh at me because I'll sound funny. And you might talk like that for the rest of the day. Morning, sunshine. I was starting to wonder if he was ever going to wake up. The man rolled his jaw around and spit a glob of thick brown tobacco juice onto the carpet. The woman's head lolled about, her eyes following the trajectory of spit. They narrowed at the sight of the dark liquid pooling on her recently purchased oriental rug. Oh, that. Patoo. He spit again, then looked right in her eyes. Figure you can afford it. She shifted in the chair as much as she could, finding that her hands were tied behind her back, the rope looped through the intricate lattice of its backrest. Her head throbbed. Her mouth was filled with silk handkerchief and covered with duct tape. Her helplessness made the man smile. I imagine you're asking who I am and what I'm doing here. He scooted his chair closer to her. His face was dirty and his breath was sour and sickening. He chewed again for a moment, contemplating his next words, then spit into the widening pool on the floor. Again, she looked down at it, then back at him with glaring eyes. You see, ma'am, I've been following you for some days now. I see you're alone most times, and though you seem to live a nice, quiet life these days, I think I know you, and I know what you done, where you come from. Patoo. He rose from the chair and meandered over to the fireplace. A row of brass figurines and empty picture frames adorned the mantel. He fingered them as he spoke. See, I know who you are really. He picked up a frame and looked at it, puzzled by the absence of its photo. He shook his head and put it down. Girl got killed outside your illegal establishment some months ago. Now I know it was you, even though you done lightened your hair and moved to this here town. I know it was one of your guys that done it. I know it was you that told him to. He came to stand before her, knelt down so they were face to face. That girl was a cousin of mine. He paused and watched for a response. When none came, he stood and continued his walk around the parlor. Now, truth be told, ma'am, I was never real close to her, nor her side of the family neither, but ain't none of my kin got the gall enough to do nothing about it. Sure, she was just a whore anyway. Hell, she probably deserved it, am I right? He whipped around. She cocked her head to one side, shrugging in deliberation. Well, nonetheless, it happened, and it upset a lot of people I know. Now, I'm not coming here necessarily to avenge her, no. He turned on his heel and spread his arms out, indicating all the luxuries of his surroundings, and said, see, I'm looking to get compensated for the death of my kin, and by the looks of it, you got plenty of compensation to be had. The woman shifted again in her chair. Her legs were free, and she crossed them then, bouncing on the seat with urgency. He stopped and stared at her. She looked intently into his eyes. He frowned, studied her face. She repeated. He stooped down before her, hesitating at first, then ripped the tape off her mouth, pulled out the dampened silk cloth. She let out a deep breath, panted, shook the pain off her cheeks. He stood and looked down at her, waiting. She glared up at him.
I need to go pee, she said. He replied. He brought his hand up, rubbed his chin as he thought. He sighed. Well, I suppose that ought to be dealt with then. He raised his shirt and pulled a pistol from his waistband, waved it in her face. That's right, little lady, I came a-packing. He positioned himself behind her, and worked on the knots, one-handed at first, then set the gun down on the floor to get at the rope. Now I'm gonna untie you and accompany you to the ladies. I'll be a gentleman and turn away, but you gotta know, if you try anything funny, I'm gonna have to do whatever I have to do. The words were barely out of his mouth, the rope only moments undone, when the chair came crashing over his head. Evening, fella. She sat across from him, straddling a new dining chair pulled from the table. The other lay in pieces on the floor around them. His pistol was in her hand. He was tied just as she had been, the same handkerchief shoved into his mouth, duct tape over it, and on his ankles, strapping his legs to the chair. His head throbbed, blood matted in his hair. She took a long drag from a cigarette and blew the smoke in his face. Now, I've been watching you follow me around the last few days. I wasn't sure who you was with. You didn't look like no copper, and you sure as hell weren't no proper gangster. I knew this was the only way to find out. She crushed the cigarette in an ornate marble ashtray on the floor. Now, you say you know who I am and where I come from. What I don't understand is, if you knew all that, or thought you knew, why in the Sam Hill would you come here and try to get away with something like this? The man whimpered. That's what I thought. She stood and walked around her parlor, carelessly waving the gun in all directions. She stopped at the drink cart and lifted the lid off her crystal decanter, set it aside, poured herself a brandy, all with one hand. Drink? She blinked at him, then shook her head. No? Then down the dark liquid. Now I gotta say, sir, she poured another glass, replaced the lid, carried the tumbler with her as she spoke. You do have some gall coming here demanding reparations and whatnot, but you gotta be one dumb sumbitch thinking you're leaving with any of my hard-earned acquisitions. She sipped on her drink and peered around the room, admiring the chandelier. Now I tell you what, I'm gonna let you go and you can run off home and live out the rest of your pathetic little life, but you bet you ain't leaving here in one piece. He whimpered again and shifted. Sweat covered his forehead and stung his wide, frightened eyes. See, though, I do have one concern, being that you know who I am and everything. See, like you said, I'm just trying to live a nice, quiet life now. I had to leave my whole empire behind, given the things I done. But since I helped the authorities with some of them other fellas, much worse than me, she took another long drink, finished the glass, and set it on the mantel. They done let me get out of there scot-free. She smiled at him, turning her head sideways, and said, Isn't that nice? Mm-hmm, he promptly nodded. So back to my concern. She feigned a look of fear. I'm just scared you might run off and tell some of them bad men that you know where I am. She shook her head and sighed. So after much deliberation, I've decided to cut out your tongue so you can't never tell anyone nothing. The man shook and jumped about in the chair, grunting and moaning. Now, don't you get all excited. You might just go and piss yourself. Again. She looked at the wet spot between his legs. His eyes followed, and he groaned at the sight. She sighed. Of course, you might be one of them literate men. Might be able to scratch out a few lines on paper telling them bad men where I am to get back at me for taking your tongue. She stopped and tapped her lips with her finger in thought. So maybe I should cut off your hands, too. He shrieked in rebuttal. No? She shook her head, continued pacing. Well, what should I do then? She came to stand before him, her hands on her hips, then glanced down at the floor where the tobacco had dried and stained the carpet. Yeah, I'm not real happy about that. He thrashed about as much as he could. Yeah, I'm not real sure what you're trying to say, but I feel like it ain't gonna be worth the cost of that there rug. She knelt down before him. So what do you think, fella? Shall we make a few calls? He woke in a ditch just outside of town, gasping and frantically feeling all over his face, checking his hands. He found everything to be intact. His body shook with fear and adrenaline. He began to sob. She had spared him, or so he thought. As he stood, he felt a sharp pain between his legs. He nearly fainted when he reached down his pants and felt the tiny, precise stitches over the tender skin where his testicles had once been. He wailed into the night, knowing he could never tell anyone what happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. And the last name, if there's other people that want to read, you've got like a little time to contemplate. But our next reader is Sarah Brock. Sarah, please come on down.
Lou, I wrote a poem called A Gift in a Verse. I thought I knew my crowd by now, and then me. I thought they preferred honesty. Am I openly honest, to which I've become a narcissistic clown, as a movie so horribly executed it becomes entertaining? From a lockdown house, I learned to keep my closets open. I rarely embellish my skeletons with black ties and pink bows for the house tour. It makes their smiles friendly to the eyes, but still false to the heart. From a back alley garden, the demons which grew from nature's past garbage who then piled onto my back, I learned to tame them with chains. I parade them only to combat another's demons. I never use them to shield me. Sometimes I grasp too tightly, losing control of them. But with the help of shepherds, analysts, strategists, or just an honest friend, I can rein the demons in once more. From a lumpy front room carpet covering troubles, lies, and unresolved feelings, I learned to have a hardwood floor. The dirt and stains force me to face what myself and others did, to see smudges on what once shined, to walk upon a cloudy, greasy film and gritty crumb trails. Sometimes I clean up all alone. Sometimes the others help finish. Sometimes those who didn't cause the mess will bring the sparkle back. All of this experience, am I real enough to have become a fake? It happens to the best of the arts. Our blatant, framed, tinted stories have the crowds begging for silence on the hardships, for a peaceful dystopia. They want their and others' typos not mentioned, viewing the time to edit as a waste. We will never learn to read and write. Everyone will be less. Should I break the glass bubbles my crowd treasures like crystal to let them know what I feel they're thinking about me, airing out the problems they try to not hear of for the sake of ignorant bliss? Sadly, I am too nice to ruin someone's bliss. Though harmful to all, it only seems to harm me the most. I just need a new crowd who will be more honest, who will take more honest notice of me, themselves, and others.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other Iron Pen contestants in the house? Feel the spirit moving you to read, share a little bit? You know, like a Mennonite service? No? Nobody? Going once, going twice? Okay, cool. Well, we will get into what's happening. If Sarah wants to come up here and help out with the next thing that we're gonna do. We've got some things to give away. Yeah. So, you want to go grab the, yeah. We do, like, before we do this, we do have some upcoming events people should know about. We've got a really cool prose workshop led by Jeffrey Wolf of Chicago, Illinois, who a couple years ago was a Great River Writers Retreat winner, as was Dee last year. So that's on Zoom, so anybody can participate in that. There's only a couple spots left, where there's a limited number of seats, and we just had 2 people sign up early this morning. So if you're interested in taking that, please sign up soon. We also, for those in the Quad City area, we're doing a series of publishing workshops in partnership with the Davenport Public Library. We had our first event on Wednesday. It was great. It was a packed house. There were 30-some people there. That one was kind of on, that one was about submission-based and independent publishing. The next one is going to be on different kinds of self-publishing, and we've got two really great authors. Tom McKay, who actually the Writing Center has published one of his books, but he's also self-published several books and has a huge, very excellent network of bookstores in the area. So he's very knowledgeable, kind of like he does all that hustle himself. And so he's a great person to learn from. And then Melissa Conway, who's a really terrific poet, graduated from Augustana College, has published several places, is in an anthology that we have coming out in April. And she does like zines and things like that, in addition to like submission-based publishing. So she's got kind of multiple experiences. So that's April 3rd. That's at Davenport Public Library, Fairmount, 6 p.m. There's a registration on their website, but you don't necessarily need to register to come. Anybody's welcome. It's free and open to the public, so you can check that out. And then the next one is after that is agent and query based publishing, kind of traditional publishing as it gets called. And that one's on Wednesday, the 1st of May. So the 1st of April and the first Wednesday in April and the first Wednesday of May at Davenport Fairmount, 6 o'clock. That'll be there. So if you're interested in getting some of this work out in the world, and a lot of you Iron Pen people should, because we know that like a bunch of people have published this work or you know, continue to work on it and revise and develop it into things that have appeared in magazines, things that have appeared in their books. And to us, that's kind of the best thing. I mean, just writing anything in 24 hours is really difficult, really challenging. But if you can like see that through to being able to share it with other people, that's pretty amazing. So check those out. And then the anthology that I mentioned, we are partnering with St. Ambrose University, and in particular, the Galvin Fine Arts Center at St. Ambrose on an anthology around the theme of radical hospitality. I don't have the title in front of me and it just flew out of my head.
Straight.
Shattered Constraints, an anthology of radical hospitality. So yes, the title came from one of the works in the anthology. Features 23 authors from around the Quad City area, the 6-county service area that we mainly work with here in Illinois and Iowa. 23 contributors, 10 of them. This is their first publication ever, which is very cool. So we're excited about that. That'll be at Galvin Fine Arts Center. And the first 100 people that show up will get a copy of the anthology for free. After that, it'll be available for sale for $10 a copy. So we'll have more information on that. And then obviously at the conference, like I said, it's June 27th and 29th. It'll be at Augustana College here in Rock Island. Huh? Yeah, June 27th, 28th, and 29th at Augustana College. Registration will be up Monday, so check our website, follow us on socials and stuff like that. We got a newsletter sign up over there. So I think what we should do is we'll do the conference drawing first, so everybody has a shot at that, and then we'll draw a couple more for some books. So how this works, everyone who registered for Iron Pen, whether they're in the room or on the Zoom, it does not matter. Every paid registration gets your name in this drawing. So if you were one of those awesome people who registered for 3 different categories, in addition to your heroic efforts, you also have your name in this drawing 3 times, so better chance to win. So what we'll do, we'll draw 3 names, first, second, third. If the first person can't go, we'll reach out to the second person. If the second person can't go, we'll reach out to the third person. If it doesn't go from there, I don't know what we'll do. We'll figure something out, I guess. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. Please come to the conference. It'll be great. And then, we'll draw for some books and some buttons. So if any of the winners today are in the house, feel free to like check out some of those buttons. They're pretty nifty. And we'll send buttons with everyone who placed. We'll send y'all some treats and some books and some cool stuff like that, because y'all are great. We appreciate y'all. Ready?
Ryan did just say the registration will be up on Monday for the conference. That means we know who the really, really awesome faculty are going to be, and you're going to be really excited. So nice people to be able to see the drawings.
Okay, so here, I'll just back up a little bit. So Sarah's going to draw because she's more trustworthy than I am. I think everyone who knows this would agree.
Dan Wosner?
Dan Wosner? I don't know if we're saying that right. Do you hear? Let me put it on the screen so people can see. Let's be official about it. So Dan, if you're out there, big ups. Congratulations. We'll be reaching out to you wherever you are.
In order then.
Yeah, let's keep that in order. That's going to be important. All right. If Dan can't go, somebody else will go.
Do it again. Okay. Sheila Kramer.
Sheila Kramer. Okay, we know Sheila. Hi, Sheila. So if Dan can't go, Sheila will be looking for you. And then third,
You guys, one time I won this way. It was very cool. I wasn't drawing. I didn't work here then.
Yeah, this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Greg Burden?
Okay, well,
Burden.
I don't know Greg, but Greg, if the first two people can't go, it's your lucky day. Okay, and so, yeah, congratulations to them, Dan, and we'll see what happens. You want to draw some other name? Like, let's do like 4 or 5. Yeah, you just pick a book. So if you're in the house, pick a book. Otherwise, if you're at home, we'll send you a book. They're all our books. We've got a little bit of everything, some Foster Stall chat book series. We've got our latest children's book that we published. We have XH Collins debut novel. We have some of those. We got a book of poetry. We got the anthology that we did about surviving surviving 2020 in the Quad Cities. So here we go. We'll just do a few and we'll see. Hopefully some of these people are here.
David Adams?
Definitely not here.
Yeah.
Let's keep those separate. We'll send
We're gonna
David.
get someone in this room.
We're just gonna keep doing it until we get someone in this room.
Samantha fully.
Well, like, and there's winning everything today. So like, look at them just styling out.
Not even here. Brianna Lee. No.
No? I know. There's 100 names in here. So like, or 80 names, some of them repeated.
Natalie Murphy? All right.
Another one of the people who placed. We'll just keep going.
Jacob Lloyd. Okay. We're
Alas.
gonna run out of books.
We are gonna run out of books.
Matt Sinovic? Susan Bake. All right. It's getting less fun.
We'll do 2 more, see if we can get somebody.
Robb.
Hey, there you go. That's somebody's in the room. What do you know? Wonder of miracles. Help yourself to a book, grab a button. Ah,
really dramatic about it?
if you'd like to.
Oh, this one came out, I saw you
Cool. All right, and we'll do 1 more. Hopefully they're here. Be the one.
This person's. Oh, maybe Christina Spears?
No? Alas. Okay. Huh?
Want somebody else to get a book today. And I failed. Patricia Piddle? Title? No.
It's just gonna go on and on and on and on and on.
Okay. Sarah Brock.
There you go.
I didn't cheat. It's real.
Victory, yeah, it's right there. It's,
There you go.
we have receipts. We're being recorded. Cool. We were just at the AWP conference. For those who know, it's the Association of Writers Writing Programs. We were just there. It was in Kansas City. It was a lot of fun, but we had a button maker. So if you were there and you were like, hey, who are those weird people with the button makers? It was us. So we got a bunch of those buttons. That's what we're doing. It was cool. It's a good idea. If you're going to go to a writing conference, bring something to make yourself stand out. More people will come talk to you. We met lots of nice people. They did. Yeah, they did. Weirdly. And then they were disappointed when they found out it wasn't. In any case, give it up 1 more time for all the winners, all the honorable mentions, everyone who participated, everybody read today. Thank you all for reading. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for judging, judges. We appreciate y'all. Yeah, check us out. Follow us on social, sign up for our newsletter. We got a lot of cool stuff coming. We appreciate y'all very much. Thank you all so much for being here. Have an excellent weekend. Bye, con Dios. Cheers. I will, yeah, I'll write that down.